My name is Karen Gage. I'm 31 years old, and I know more about electrical panels than I ever understood about people. With wires, everything is simple. You follow the code, you respect the load, you ground the current so nothing explodes. People aren't like circuits. They spark for no reason. They overload without warning, and they short out right when you think you finally understand them. I run an electrical contracting business. Not a side gig, not call my cousin with a toolbox, but a fully licensed, bonded 8-year grind of a company that I built from sweat, burnt fingertips, and stubbornness. At 23, I drove a beat-up Ford Ranger with 180,000 miles on it. I'd crawl into crawl spaces that smelled like asbestos and old regrets, working 60, 80-hour weeks while surviving on gas station sandwiches. Every dollar I earned went right back into the business. Better tools, better truck, better insurance, better everything. I learned the trade from Uncle Rick, a man with hands like sandpaper and a heart too soft for the woman who ended up taking half his business during their divorce. He had to restart from zero at 45. The day he signed those papers, he told me 2 rules I should have tattooed on my forehead. Do quality work. Your reputation will sell you. Protect your assets like your life depends on it. One bad partner can wipe you out. I didn't realize how prophetic that second rule was until much later. By 28, I was finally comfortable. I bought a modest 2-bedroom house. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I upgraded to a Ram 2500 diesel work truck and paid it off in 3 years. My business grew to a crew of 3 skilled guys who respected me. I was clearing about $140K a year after expenses. And that's when I met Liam. He was 25, working reception at a dental office. Nice eyes, soft voice, and a smile that made even fluorescent lighting look warm. He had an art history degree gathering dust behind that front desk and dreams bigger than his paycheck. We met because the office needed emergency electrical work before an inspection. He brought me coffee, hovered nearby, asked questions like he genuinely cared about what I was doing. No one had ever looked at my work like it was interesting. We started texting, then dating, then intertwining our lives like wires I thought were compatible. He was this quirky, artsy, gentle thing in my otherwise rough industrial world. Weekends, he took me to gallery openings where I pretended to understand abstract installations. He'd stand there describing symbolism while I stood there wondering how much the artist spent on the frame. But with him, I felt balanced. He had dreams. I had stability. He had culture. I had grit. In my mind, it made sense. 6 months into dating, he told me he felt trapped behind that reception desk. If I'm going to be a curator, I need time, Karen, he said, running his fingers through his hair. Internships, portfolio building, networking nights, none of that pays. I knew the feeling of wanting more. I knew the desperation of starting from nothing. So I made the biggest emotional and financial mistake of my adult life. Quit, I told him. I'll cover your expenses while you focus on your art career full time. He stared at me like I'd handed him the keys to the universe. Are you serious? Yeah, we're a team. The way his eyes lit up, at the time I thought it was gratitude. Later, I realized it was opportunity. He quit a week later, and suddenly I was funding his life. The trendy 800 square feet apartment in the Arts District, my signature on the lease, $200 a month, paid by me. The leased Audi A4, my automatic payments. Groceries, organic only, apparently, also me. His new wardrobe, I have to look the part in the art world, also me. I added him as an authorized user on 2 of my credit cards, one for everyday expenses, one for emergencies. He treated both like bottomless wells. $4,000, $5,000 a month, every month. Meanwhile, I was climbing ladders, sweating through my work shirts, running commercial jobs, attending city inspections, and slowly losing myself in a relationship where I was the only one actually building anything. My best friend Danny hated the situation, quietly at first. That's a lot of unpaid internships, he'd say over tacos. Karen, does he even ask about your day anymore? I brushed him off. He didn't get it. He didn't understand the art world. He didn't understand Liam. But he understood me. He understood work. He understood give and take. And I refused to see that all I was doing was give. 2.5 years passed like that. His bills went up. His gratitude went down. His presence evaporated. And then the distance started. Liam stopped visiting job sites, stopped asking about my day, started going out more. Gallery nights, networking parties, exclusive events. He'd get ready like he was walking a runway, while I came home exhausted, still in my work boots. His phone became sacred, face down everywhere, always locked, password changed without mention. When I asked what he'd been doing, he answered in vague, breezy lines. Oh, art stuff, meeting people. Meanwhile, I was buried in a massive commercial renovation on a deadline tight enough to strangle me. I ignored the flickering signs, the dimming light, the warm smell of a wire about to burn. I told myself we were both busy. I told myself the distance was temporary. I told myself he'd appreciate everything once he made it. I didn't know it yet, but I had already wired my own heartbreak. All it needed was someone to flip the switch. The night everything blew apart wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no slammed doors, no storm or sudden revelation. It was quiet, too quiet. It started 3 months before the end. Just small things, almost invisible if you weren't looking. Liam's clothes got nicer. His nights got later. His answers got shorter. Gallery thing. Networking. Portfolio review. Don't wait up. Every time he walked out wearing cologne I didn't buy and clothes I didn't recognize, something inside me flickered like a loose connection. But I didn't have the bandwidth to deal with it. My company had just landed a huge contract, a full electrical overhaul of a 4-story office building downtown. High stakes, tight deadlines. The kind of job that makes or breaks your reputation. My days started before sunrise and ended long after the last city inspector drove away. I'd come home exhausted, smelling like metal and drywall dust. And Liam would be stepping out the door, buttoning a crisp shirt I'd never seen before. Another event, I'd ask? Yeah, it's important, he'd say, barely glancing up. Don't wait up. He used to hug me before he left. Now he barely brushed against me, like contact might wrinkle the image he'd perfectly curated. His phone became a vault, always face down, notifications off, password changed. When it buzzed, he'd grab it instantly, walking into the bathroom or turning away. I told myself we were both busy, that we'd reconnect after the project ended, that relationships went through phases. But deep down, I knew better. Even electrical fires have warning signs if you pay attention. I just didn't want to. Our 3-year anniversary was supposed to be the reset button. Liam had been raving for months about a new Italian restaurant. Tiny portions, big price tag, the kind of place where they describe the food like poetry. So I made reservations 2 weeks in advance. I even bought him a watch he'd admired in a magazine. Sleek, modern, the kind of piece that screamed curator in the making. $1,800. Wrapped in a velvet box. It felt like an anchor, a reminder of us, a promise that we were still moving forward. The day of our anniversary, I finished a job site inspection early, 4:30 p.m., sunlight slanting low across the half-finished building. I drove straight to Liam's apartment, thinking I'd surprise him. Maybe we'd talk before dinner. Maybe we'd find each other again. But when I walked in with my spare key, the place felt hollow. Not messy, not lived in, just hollow. Like someone had taken the life out of it and left only the furniture behind. His shoes weren't by the door. His jacket wasn't on the hook. The air felt cold, empty, foreign. I sat on the couch with the gift box in my lap and texted him. Hey, where are you? I'm at your place. No answer. 5:15 p.m. Still nothing. 6 p.m. Dinner reservations at 7:30. Still nothing. At 6:45, my phone finally buzzed. For half a second, I felt relief. Then I opened the message. 10 words. 10 nails in a coffin I didn't know was being built. I found someone else. I want nothing more to do with you. I stared at the screen, read it once, twice, 5 times. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like I'd been shoved down an elevator shaft. No explanation, no apology, no conversation, just I'm done. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. My vision blurred, my throat tightened until breathing felt optional. I almost typed back. I almost begged for an answer. I almost became small. Why? Who? Can we talk? Please don't do this. Those words were seconds from leaving my fingers. But then something old, something buried, clicked into place. Uncle Rick, standing in his empty shop. Danny's voice asking, "Does he even ask about your day anymore?" The credit card bills, the organic groceries, the perfect outfits, the nights out, the secrets. It all snapped together like a breaker flipping off. Cold clarity washed over me, sharp as a fresh wire strip. He said he wanted nothing more to do with me. Okay, then I would give him exactly that. I typed 3 words. As you wish. And that was the moment, the precise second. I stopped being Karen, the heartbroken girlfriend, and became Karen, the businesswoman. I set the anniversary gift on the kitchen counter, opened my laptop, and went to work. Credit cards, removed his access. Car payments, canceled next week's automatic withdrawal. Emailed the dealership revoking his authorization to drive the vehicle. Lease, found the termination clause, drafted the notice, and sent it. Streaming services, logged in and wiped every profile he used. Gym membership canceled. Phone line, scheduled for removal at the end of the billing cycle. Every dependency he'd built, every dollar, every convenience, every privilege, I cut. Not out of revenge, not out of rage, out of self-preservation. He ended the relationship, I ended the benefits. It took 50 minutes. When I finished, I sat back on his couch in total silence. I expected to feel heartbreak, or anger, or something. But all I felt was empty, clean, strange, echoing emptiness, like the calm after a lightning strike. At 8:30, I grabbed my duffel bag, locked the door behind me, and drove straight to Danny's house. He opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask a single unnecessary question. What happened? I handed him my phone. He read the text, looked at me, nodded once. About damn time, he said. Beer's in the fridge. I slept on his couch. Didn't cry, didn't speak much. Just lay there, staring at the ceiling, while the world shifted beneath me. The next morning, over eggs and bacon, Danny pushed a mug of coffee toward me. So, he said, what's the plan? I took a breath. I already cut everything off. His eyebrows shot up. You went nuclear in one night? Yup. Good. Now call a lawyer. And I did. That call was the fuse that lit the rest of the story. The morning after the breakup, I walked into Mr. Phillips's law office with the same numb steadiness I usually save for city inspections and failed electrical panels. If heartbreak had a temperature, mine had already frozen over. Mr. Phillips had been my parents' attorney for years. 60-something, sharp as a box cutter, and allergic to nonsense. He listened to everything quietly while I explained the text, the money, the cards, the lease, the Audi, the whole mess. When I finished, he tapped his pen once and leaned back. Karen, he said, adjusting the glasses perched on his nose, your ex-boyfriend appears to be a very specific type of person. What type is that? The type who mistakes generosity for obligation. He folded his hands. Legally, you're in excellent shape. You weren't married. No cohabitation agreement. No shared assets. Every dollar you spent was a gift, and gifts are revocable when they involve ongoing services such as housing and transportation. So, he can't sue me? Oh, he can try, Philip said. But he won't win. And for the first time in 24 hours, I exhaled. The first week after the breakup was eerily quiet. No texts from Liam, no calls, no emails, just nothing. I figured he was with the someone else he'd chosen over our 3 years together. Fine, let him celebrate. I threw myself back into work. Early mornings, late nights, the hum of drills and the smell of sawdust grounding me in something real. By the end of the week, my crew started giving me careful side glances, the kind reserved for someone who's holding themselves together with electrical tape. Boss, you good? Fine, I'd answer. Because I was, or I was pretending to be. Same difference. Friday, 2:14 p.m. I was in a supply warehouse comparing wire prices when my phone started vibrating nonstop. Text after text after text, all from Liam. I stepped outside into the parking lot, opened the first one. My card got declined. Did your bank mess something up? Then another. Why isn't my phone working? And another. Karen, what the hell is going on? Did you cancel my gym membership? Then, you can't do this to me. It's abuse. You know I can't afford these bills. This is financial manipulation. Financial manipulation. From a man who dumped me via text while living in an apartment I paid for. I laughed, actually laughed, alone in a warehouse parking lot while holding a shopping cart full of conduit. I didn't respond. Not to a single one. Instead, I took screenshots of every message and forwarded them to Mr. Phillips with a single sentence. Document this, please. Then I blocked Liam's number. The silence afterward felt like flipping off a screaming fire alarm. 2 days later, I got the email. Subject line, urgent. Representation of Liam Renford, a downtown law firm. Attorney Richard Donovan, Esquire. A man who clearly enjoyed the sound of his own titles. The email was dramatic enough to win an award. He accused me of malicious cessation of financial support, emotional damages, career sabotage, and implied I owed Liam continued sponsorship during his transition to a sustainable career. Sponsorship? Like he was a charity and I was a grant program? I called Mr. Phillips immediately. He read Donovan's email once, then snorted. That's adorable. Adorable? I repeated. Yes, especially the phrase malicious cessation. That's not a legal term. It's the kind of thing people write when they want to sound smart but skipped law school. Should I respond? No, he said firmly. You never respond. Forward everything to me and remain silent. I'll handle him. That afternoon, Philip sent a reply that was equal parts professional and devastating. It stated, Liam ended the relationship via text. No contract for financial support existed. All payments were voluntary. Any further harassment or false statements would be met with countersuits. Any lawsuit filed would be vigorously defended and aggressively counterclaimed. Mic drop. I didn't hear anything for 2 days. Then Donovan sent another email, longer, more theatrical. He claimed Liam had invested deeply in the relationship, that my withdrawal of promised support had set his career back, and proposed a settlement. Me continuing to pay his rent for 6 more months. Me covering the Audi payment, plus $20,000 to avoid public litigation. I forwarded it to Mr. Phillips. His response was almost cheerful. They're fishing. They know they have no case. Ignore it. So, do nothing? Nothing. The more they talk, the more evidence they give me. That Saturday morning, I got a call from Diane, the property manager for Liam's building. Her voice was irritated in the way only someone who has seen everything can be. Ms. Gage, there was an incident at the property today. My stomach dropped. What happened? Your former boyfriend showed up with a man. Russell something. They demanded entry to the unit. I informed them the lease is in your name and your termination notice was already filed. And? He became agitated, yelled about belongings being held hostage. His friend threatened to make trouble. I pointed at the no trespassing sign. They eventually left. Of course they did. What do you need from me? We need a date when movers can remove his belongings. You'll need to be present. Fine, I said, Wednesday 9 a.m. Because if Liam wanted his things back, he could take them. But everything I bought, every couch, table, appliance, piece of electronics, every dollar he treated like an entitlement. Those stayed. I hired a professional moving crew, the kind who show up on time, wear gloves, and know the difference between personal belongings and property. Danny insisted on coming with me. You're not doing this alone, he said. Plus, I want to see the circus with my own eyes. Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., we parked outside the apartment like soldiers approaching a battlefield. Danny cracked his knuckles. You ready? I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel angry. I just felt done. This is the last thing he gets from me, I said, stepping out of the truck. Inside, the movers were boxing Liam's personal items with clinical efficiency. Clothes, shoes, art supplies, books, toiletries. Everything else, everything with my name on a receipt, stayed exactly where it was. At 9:30, Liam showed up, with Russell, and, because of course, a man holding a video camera. Danny muttered under his breath, Oh, this is going to be fun. And that was the beginning of the showdown. The moment Liam stepped out of the elevator, I knew exactly what kind of performance he planned to put on. He walked in with his shoulders squared like he was marching into a courtroom, not an apartment he hadn't paid a cent for. Russell trailed behind him. Designer haircut, designer gym clothes, and the kind of smugness only someone drowning in leased debt could maintain. And then there was the third guy, a lanky man with a camera already recording. Of course, because why accept reality when you can film a fake narrative? Danny whispered, I swear to God, if they try a TikTok sob story. I elbowed him lightly to keep him quiet, though I agreed. Liam's eyes locked onto me with this wounded, trembling expression, like he was the victim here. Karen, he said softly, voice shaky enough to win an award. Please, can we talk? My whole life is in there. Your personal things are boxed, I said calmly. Movers will bring them down. What about my furniture? Not yours. His face went pale. What do you mean, not mine? You gave those to me. No, I corrected. I furnished my apartment. You lived in it. I pulled out my phone, scrolled, then held up a photo. Receipt, my name, my card, date, total. Liam blinked rapidly, as if the truth physically stung. That couch was clearly a gift, he insisted. Then why is my name on the delivery receipt, Liam? He opened his mouth, but Russell stepped forward like he was auditioning to be Liam's knight in overpriced armor. This is ridiculous, Russell snapped. You can't just take everything. He lived here for 3 years. On my dime, I replied evenly, in my name. Danny stepped up beside me, towering like a wall made of HVAC muscle. Russell's bravado dimmed instantly. Camera guy zoomed in on my face. Ma'am, he said, voice dripping with faux concern, we're recording this for Liam's safety. Danny grinned and leaned toward the camera. Cool, he said. Then you're also recording yourself trying to enter a property you have no legal rights to. He nodded at the camera. Solid evidence, thanks. Camera guy swallowed. Inside the apartment, the movers were finishing the last boxes. Only items from the list, the lead mover, Marcus, said firmly when Russell tried wandering toward the bedroom. For what list? Russell snapped. Marcus pointed to a clipboard. Client provided documentation. Everything of hers stays. Russell scoffed. I'll take the TV. He grabbed the 65-inch flat screen like he was about to drag it off the wall. He didn't get far. Marcus, who had at least 50 pounds of muscle on him, stepped in front of the TV with a deadpan expression. Sir, that item is not yours. Put it down. Who the hell are you to tell me? I'm the guy who calls the cops when someone tries to steal, Marcus said calmly. Your choice what happens next. Russell froze, then reluctantly set the TV back on the stand. Danny clapped slowly. Good call. Liam let out a strangled noise, half sob, half frustration. Karen, please, that TV was... Bought by me, I cut in. March 2022. Best Buy. Paid in full. Want to see the receipt? I held up my phone again. His jaw clenched. I wasn't angry. I wasn't vindictive. I was simply done. Done with being taken advantage of. Done with paying for a lifestyle he thought he deserved. Done with pretending this was a partnership. This is cruel, Liam whispered, eyes glossy. You're throwing away 3 years like they meant nothing. I stared at him for a long moment. You threw them away, I said quietly. I'm just cleaning up after you. His eyes flickered with something ugly. Anger, guilt, maybe fear. But the scene wasn't over. Because right then, right at the perfect moment, Mr. Phillips walked into the apartment. He arrived wearing a golf shirt, holding a leather folder, and carrying the energy of a man who devours amateurs for breakfast. Good morning, he said pleasantly. I'm Mr. Phillips, representing Ms. Gage. Are we having a problem? Camera guy lowered the camera a fraction. Russell's posture wilted. Liam swallowed hard. Phillips opened his folder and began laying documents across the kitchen counter with surgical precision. Receipts for every piece of furniture. Delivery confirmations. Credit card statements. Lease agreement. All with my name, my payment, my proof. He tapped the last sheet. Everything in this apartment, except the personal items boxed by the movers, is Ms. Gage's property. Any attempt to remove those items would legally qualify as theft. Grand larceny, he added calmly, given the value. Camera guy lowered the camera completely. Russell's jaw flexed, but he stayed silent. Liam just broke. His shoulders sagged. His eyes fell. All the fight bled out of him. Load the approved boxes into their vehicles, Phillips instructed. Marcus nodded. His crew moved with clean, efficient force. One box after another went down the elevator. Clothes, shoes, books, magazines, art supplies, toiletries, the things Liam had brought into his life. Everything else, the apartment's life, the comfort, the expensive pieces, were things I brought into his, and those stayed behind. When the last box was loaded, Liam stood there silently. Russell's BMW was packed. Liam's Audi, now unpaid, held the rest. He looked at me one last time with a mix of shock, betrayal, and something like desperation. Karen, he whispered, I made a mistake. I met his eyes with absolute, unshakable calm. No, I said, you made a choice. He flinched. They left without another word. Russell slammed the door of his BMW. Camera guy pretended he never existed. Liam walked around to the passenger side like a man whose world had been unplugged. And just like that, they were gone. Inside, the apartment was a wreck. Scuffed walls, trash on the floor, a damaged doorframe where Russell had apparently tried to force his way earlier. Diane, the property manager, walked through with a notepad and grim efficiency. We'll invoice you for the damage, she said. I nodded. Send it. A day later, Mr. Phillips forwarded the $2,200 damage bill to Liam's lawyer with a polite note. We expect reimbursement within 30 days. We both knew no money would ever come, but the point had been made. As Danny and I left the empty apartment, I paused one last time at the threshold. Feel anything? He asked. I thought about it. No, I said honestly. It's just done. We stepped into the hallway and walked away from the ghost of a life I funded. You'd think the showdown at the apartment would be the final storm, that after the boxes were loaded and the door slammed behind Liam and Russell, the skies would clear and life would settle. But people like Liam don't drift away quietly. They need an audience. They need a narrative. They need someone to blame when the lifestyle they were never meant to afford suddenly collapses. The next wave didn't come from Liam himself. It came from social media. A week after the apartment confrontation, I woke up to 3 missed calls from Danny and a text that just said, "You need to see this." He sent a link. It opened to a public post on Liam's page, a long, dramatic paragraph written in the tone of someone auditioning for a martyr role in a community theater production. He claimed he had been financially controlled, emotionally manipulated, cut off without warning, abandoned in a crisis, and left with nothing after sacrificing everything for the relationship. Sacrificing everything? He'd sacrificed exactly $0, 0 hours of labor, and 0 rent payments. But the part that really made me stop was the phrasing. I was thrown out with nothing but my art supplies. She weaponized her money to destroy my career. Weaponized my money. The only money he ever had was the one he spent from my accounts. Comments were already piling up. A few sympathetic strangers. A few who knew him vaguely from gallery openings, writing things like, "So awful, stay strong. Some people are so toxic. You deserve better." I felt nothing. Not anger, not humiliation, not fear. Just a quiet, heavy disbelief at how confidently some people rewrite reality when it suits them. But the universe has a funny way of self-correcting. Because while Liam was out there spinning his tale, the art world, the tiny, interconnected community he desperately needed approval from, saw that same post. And one of them knew the truth. Lauren, a junior curator who worked at the gallery where Liam interned, was one of the few people who actually knew both of us. She'd seen me show up after closing hours to help him transport art books. She'd seen the clothes, the car, the lifestyle, all funded by me. She didn't comment. She didn't message him. She simply showed the post to her colleague and said, "This is wild. Karen paid for everything. He didn't even buy his own dinner half the time." And that was enough, because whispers travel faster than lies. Within 48 hours, Liam's dramatic post circulated through the local art scene like spilled ink. The intern who acted like a socialite, the one who lived in a designer apartment without a job, dumped the woman who funded his life, then accused her publicly of controlling him. That kind of reputation doesn't wash out. The gallery director, an older woman with a spine made of dignity and granite, called Liam into her office. She didn't yell, she didn't accuse, she just said, "Your recent online conduct does not align with the level of professionalism expected in this field. We will not be continuing your internship." Translation: "You're done here. Don't come back." And just like that, the dream he left me for, the dream I funded, vanished. Not because I lifted a finger, because he burned his own bridges. Things unraveled fast after that. Russell, the someone else he dumped me for, started feeling the fallout too. Real estate, like the art world, relies on reputation and good impressions. The circles overlap more than you'd think. Clients talk. People gossip. Soon, Russell's colleagues were whispering about the toxic artist boyfriend, about fights, about drama, and about how Russell brought turmoil into every room he entered. Referrals dried up, deals slipped away. And suddenly, the man with the leased BMW and the overpriced confidence couldn't keep up with the image he was trying so desperately to sell. Pressure built, tension cracked. Their relationship imploded. 6 weeks. That's how long the fantasy lasted. 6 weeks before the fighting started, before the bills stacked up, before Liam realized Russell couldn't bankroll him, and before Russell realized Liam wasn't a muse, he was a financial sinkhole. When it finally exploded, neighbors heard them fighting. Someone called security. And Liam's perfect new world shattered. A month later, Liam moved back into his parents' house. The Audi was repossessed. The curated wardrobe he loved so much stayed stuffed into boxes. He had no gallery, no internship, no curator path, no boyfriend, no home, and not a single card connected to my accounts. The universe had balanced its books. 3 months after the breakup, I got an unexpected email. From Lauren? Subject line: "Thought you should see this." Inside was a link to a Facebook post written by Liam's father. I remembered the man vaguely, quiet, humble, worked in manufacturing, clearly proud of his son, but not the type to stir drama. His post was long, apologetic, and heartbreakingly honest. He wrote about how Liam had left a good, stable woman for someone flashy. He wrote about how Liam expected a lifestyle Russell couldn't afford. He wrote about how Liam was now home, broke, regretful, and facing consequences he created. He wrote, "She gave him a ladder to his dreams and he jumped off it. He didn't name me, but he didn't need to. It was closure I never asked for. And still, I felt nothing. Not pride, not triumph, not satisfaction. Just quiet clarity. Some things don't need revenge. They self-destruct." 6 months after the breakup, my life was steady again. My business grew. I hired a fourth crew member, landed a huge medical office contract, and work felt clean, focused, mine again. I started dating casually. Nothing serious, nothing dramatic, just meeting men who bought their own dinners and didn't treat financial stability like a personality trait. Danny and I kept our Friday taco routine. Same booth, same order, same blunt honesty. One afternoon, he looked up from his plate and asked, "You ever hear from him?" "No." "You ever check?" "No." He grinned. "That's how I know you won." I raised an eyebrow. "How?" "You don't care anymore." And he was right. Liam wasn't a memory that hurt. He wasn't a scar. He wasn't a lesson I regretted. He was just a closed chapter. I donated all the furniture from his old apartment, the couch, the table, the TV, to a nonprofit that helps domestic violence survivors rebuild their homes. It felt right, like turning something tainted into something meaningful. A final reset, a clean panel, a new beginning. If you're listening to this and you're in a similar situation, here's what I learned. Protect your assets. Document everything. Stay calm. Let people face the consequences of the choices they make. You don't have to destroy someone who's actively destroying themselves. Sometimes the universe does the grounding for you. And that was the last time I ever thought about Liam.